chapter 17, verse 23. Until the Lord removed Israel out of his sight, as he had said by all his servants, the prophets. So was Israel carried away out of their own land to Assyria unto this day.
So they were carried to Assyria. Y'all see that? And so that's the history of the first instance of Israel literally being taken out of their land and being taken away captive, right? And that's where we get this history in Ezra. Go to 2nd Ezra 14 and verse 40, because from there, right, various captivities from the Babylonians, the Assyrians, the Persian and Mede, right? Different things taking place, right? So let's get the history in 2nd Ezra that gives us a brief overview of that and how they ultimately came to America.
2nd Ezra chapter 14, chapter 13, verse 40. Those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king, who Salmanasar, the king of Assyria, led away captive and carried them over the waters, and so came they into another land.
So so we just read that history, right? The Assyrians were the first one to take them away captive, but in the time of King Hosea, it say the king whom Salmanasar, the king of Assyria, led away captive, right? Now, in what time? Who was the king that allowed them freedom?
There you go, Joe. There you go.
Joe, what you got?
Joe, shalom, family. It was King Cyrus.
King Cyrus, right?
Yes, sir.
King Cyrus. Where do you find that history?
Nehemiah.
In the book of Nehemiah? Where else?
1. Nehemiah, Ezra.
Ezra. There we go. That's what I was looking for. Ezra in the Old Testament. I don't like saying the Bible because that separates the Apocrypha from the Bible. I say the Old Testament, the Apocrypha, and the New Testament. People say in the Apocrypha of the Bible. No, it's just the Old Testament, brother. It's all one book. Thank you, sir. We're going to read that a little bit. I'm going to read a little bit out of there. Get it. Ezra chapter 1.
Yes, sir. You want to start at 1?
Yes, sir.
Ezra chapter 1, verse 1. Now in the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, that the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah might be fulfilled, the Lord stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia, that he made a proclamation throughout all his kingdom, and put it also in writing, saying, Thus saith Cyrus, king of Persia, the Lord God of heaven have given me all the kingdoms of the earth, and he have charged me to build him an house at Jerusalem, which is in Judah. Who is there among you of all his people? His God be with him, and let him go up to Jerusalem, which is in Judah, and build the house of the Lord, God of Israel. He is the God which is in Jerusalem.
So ultimately what's happening here is they were captive. He had them enslaved. And he said, you know what? The Lord put the spirit on me to let them go, man. Let these people go home. Let them go build up their city, man. Let them go. And some of the people decided to go back, but guess what? Some of the people didn't. Go back to Ezra's. Some of the people decided to go back, but not everybody.
2nd Ezra chapter 13, verse 40. Those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king, who Salmanasar, the king of Assyria, led away captive, and he carried them over the waters, and so came they into another land. But they took this counsel among themselves.
So certain of them took the counsel among themselves. Go ahead.
That they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt.
Because even though they went back to go build the land, guess what? They were still under the armpit of the heathen. You see that they were still under the heathen. So they said a sect of them say, you know what, we finna go forth into a further land where never mankind dwelt. Go ahead.
That they might keep their statutes, which they never kept in their own land.
Because guess what? The reason why they got took out the land originally was because why? Was because they did not keep the laws and statutes of the Most High. Go ahead.
Verse 43. And they entered into Euphrates by the narrow passages of the river. For the Most High then showed signs for them and held still the flood.
He held still the floods. He created a certain current that allowed their voyage to be expedited, man. So they already knew the way to go. The Lord controlled the waters. That's why they say it's a passage they could take and they get you there quick. You know what I mean? Because the Lord allowed the water to flow in that direction. Go ahead.
And held still the flood till they were passed over. For through that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half.
That's how long it took to get across the sea. Go ahead.
And the same region is called Arsarith.
It's called what?
Arsarith.
So, hey, pull up that Jewish encyclopedia definition of the word Arsarith. Pull that up real quick. Arsarith. Because this history is common. We don't know this history. Guess what? The Jews know this history, right? The other nations, they know this history. We don't know this history. Go ahead, pull that up.
Jewish encyclopedia.
Zoom in.
All right. Arsarith. The name of the land beyond the great river, far away from the habitation of man, in which the 10 tribes of Israel will dwell, observing the laws of Moses until the time of restoration, according to 2nd Esdras.
According to the Bible, the scriptures that we just read.
13, verse 45. Columbus identified America with this land.
And you know, this ain't common knowledge to us, right? But guess what? To everybody, this is common knowledge. They know who we are. They be putting it in their movies and their media. Y'all see, what's that movie with the what's it called? 1492, The Conquest of Paradise. Anybody familiar with that movie? 1492? Nobody familiar with that? There's a clip in that movie where it talks about them getting to America, showing the way to go in the Bible. Hey, pull that clip up. Yeah, I got it queued up. Push play on that. Blow that up. Blow it up big. Cut it up so we can hear.
Why did you wish to sail west?
To open a new route to Asia. Asia is the richest kingdom, the land of spices and gold. At the moment, there are only 2 ways of reaching it. By sea, sailing around the African continent. The journey takes a year. Or by land. But the Turks have closed this route to all Christians. There is a 3rd way. By sailing west across the ocean sea.
The distance is unknown. It's said to be infinite.
Superstition. I believe the Indies are no more than 750 leagues west of the Canary Islands.
How can you be so certain?
The calculations of Toscanelli, Marin de Tir, Esdras.
Esdras is a Jew.
So what's worse?
2 minutes, and already you're a dead man.
For telling the truth?
Yes. We are burning people for less. The men you're about to confront.
Hey, that's crazy, huh? So they put that in the Esdras. They talk about it in the Bible. That's how we get there to America, to get the riches. Everybody knows it. Everybody but us. They know that the people of America, the so-called tribes of Issachar and all of the South American tribes, right? Those is the Israelites. They know this. We the ones that don't know, right?
He said, Esdras is a Jew.
Esdras is a Jew. It is the Bible. Don't bring the Bible into this, bro. It talk about. So that's how they understood. Not just that the people that over there are Israelites, but guess what? They speak Hebrew. So they brought Hebrew interpreters to make sure that they can communicate with the indigenous people of the land. But guess what? The problem is, get Deuteronomy 28, 45 and verse 46. Get that in Deuteronomy.
Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 45. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee and shall pursue thee and overtake thee till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God.
So remember, the Lord cursed us. He said when we was in the wilderness in Egypt, he said, look, these curses going to be upon you. right? And they will pursue you until you be destroyed. And that's what happened. We got destroyed off our land, right? They got taken into captivity to Assyria. They got released, and now ultimately coming to America. But guess what? Guess what? Keep reading.
Because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes, which he commanded thee. And they shall be upon thee for a sign.
For what?
For a sign. And for a wonder. And upon thy seed forever.
For how long?
Forever.
For how long?
Forever.
No, we get to America, we be cool.
And upon thy seed forever.
Guess what? The curses are still pursuing them. The curses are still pursuing Northern Kingdom. This is how we can identify who the Northern Kingdom is today. You see that? That's how we can identify it. And when you read in the scriptures, it directly correlates to the history of the people. Now we got secular references as far as non-Bible, right? We got books and references that we can go to for sure. But guess what? You take those references and you line them up with the curses, it line up directly. And we're going to prove it today. Let's start with some of the atrocities that happened to our people when they got here. Once they got here, and when Christopher Columbus met them, right? Let's look up that. Pull up the book American Holocaust, page 66. There we go. Hey, read that highlighted part for me.
You want me to start where it says first?
Yeah.
All right, page 66, American Holocaust. First, the Indians were maniacal. Then, as it were, they were read their rights.
No, start right here. After all,
Columbus had seized and kidnapped Indian men, women, and children throughout his first voyage. Long before the requiremento was in use, 5 at one stop, 6 at another, more at others, filling his ships with varied samples of Indians to display like exotic beasts in Seville and Barcelona upon his return.
You know why I wanted to go here first? Because guess what? Whenever we read the Bible and we out there teaching, especially with Northern Kingdom, and I'm going to highlight this throughout my class, get Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 68.
Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 68. And the Lord.
So remember when he said these curses going to follow you. They going to pursue you, right? Go ahead.
And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt.
Egypt is a Greek, old Quaker word. It means bondage, right? It means slavery, right? Go ahead.
And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships.
So we read this and with Judah, it correlate like, yeah, brother, transatlantic slave trade, but that's us, bro, right? But guess what? That's both our history. But we don't really associate it with the Northern Kingdom because the transatlantic slave trade is so dominantly taught in the earth that we roll right over the Northern Kingdoms going on slave ships. But we're gonna highlight that today. We're gonna talk about it. Let's go. Read it. Read it again. Pull that book back up.
All right, we on the
start from the top.
After all, Columbus had seized and kidnapped Indian men, women, and children throughout his first voyage, long before the requiremento was in use. 5 at one stop, 6 at another, more at others, filling his ships with varied samples of Indians to display like exotic beasts in Seville and Barcelona upon his return.
The highlighted part.
Columbus sent a raiding party ashore to capture some women and with their children to keep his growing access of captured native males company.
Go ahead. The highlighted part.
The husband of one of these women and father of 3 children, a boy and 2 girls, who followed his captured family onto Columbus's ship and said that if they had to go, he wished to come with them and begged me hard. And they all now remain counseled with him.
So we often think that the slave trade on the ship started with Southern Kingdom, but it did not. Way prior to us going in, before they came and got the rest of the Israelites, brothers and sisters, guess what? It started with the Northern Kingdom. It started with the northern kingdom. And that's a history that's rarely talked about, that's rarely discussed. When you read in the book of Deuteronomy 28, it don't talk about the northern kingdom on slave ships and going into slavery. Yeah, the atrocities is real. We're going to talk about some of them too. But guess what? They went on slave ships too. Get page. Oh, you got something?
Can I get something?
Go ahead.
Just because we read Deuteronomy 28 and 68, we think about always Southern Kingdom, but give me the book of Hosea, because the book of Hosea is written mainly for the Northern Kingdom. And here in the book of Hosea, as we get Hosea, give me chapter 8, start at 11. Because here the Most High is saying that that the Northern Kingdom, meaning Ephraim, is going to go into slavery too. And that's what some of these brothers that say, no, that brother over there, see that brother over there in the back, and that brother right there, they're not Israelites because they didn't go into slavery. But they haven't read the Bible. They don't read the Bible. So give me that. Start with 11.
Hosea chapter 8, verse 11.
Mm-hmm.
Because Ephraim have made many altars to sin,
Mm-hmm.
altars shall be unto him to sin.
Read.
I have written to him the great things of my law, but they were counted as a strange thing.
So the Most High, He gave us the laws, but we counted them as a something that is strange to us. Read on.
Verse 13. They sacrifice flesh for the sacrifices of mine offering.
So they instead of sacrificing what the real sacrifices of animal sacrifices, they started sacrificing people, flesh. Read.
And eat it.
Mm-hmm.
But the Lord accepteth not.
Mm-hmm.
But the Lord accepteth not them not. Now will he remember their iniquity and visit their sins.
Mm-hmm.
They shall return to Egypt.
To where?
To Egypt.
As we know in Exodus 20 and 2, Egypt means bondage, is slavery. Go get it and prove it. Yeah. Because it says, now, he says, the Lord accepted them not. Now they will remember their iniquity and visit their sins. They shall return to Egypt. Give me that.
Exodus 20, verse 2.
Mm-hmm.
I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage.
Right. So the Egypt is the house of bondage, which is slavery. Now jump up to chapter 9, verse 3. It says it again. So read it, verse 3.
Hosea chapter 9, verse 3.
Mm-hmm.
And they shall not dwell in the Lord's land.
We're not in Jerusalem anymore.
But Ephraim shall return to Egypt, and they shall eat unclean things in Assyria.
So that's what he's saying, that the northern kingdom is going to return again into slavery. But sometimes these brothers, these other camps over there that say that the Latinos are not Israelites, they haven't read the Bible yet. That's why. But these are, if you haven't write them down to explain to them that northern kingdom is part of the 12 tribes. That's it, officer.
All right, pull up page 70 of the American Holocaust book. We're gonna go back to the American Holocaust. We're gonna get to the bottom of this. Hey, all praise, that's right. So the curses is gonna follow them regardless of where they go. The scriptures say when they in sin, you're gonna go back into Egypt. You worship other gods, I'm sending you back into Egypt. Meaning what? You're going back into slavery. Pull up page 70 of that.
That's Deuteronomy 28. The picture of Deuteronomy 28:68.
IT, where you at? All right. So, and the point is that it's irrefutable when you think about who the scripture is identifying as a northern kingdom as far as their descendants today. You can't deny it, right? Indisputable. Pull up that page 70 of that American Holocaust book. Here we go, page 70. There we go. Read that, brother.
Page 70.
Read the highlighted part on page 70.
Yes, sir. It didn't work. The Spanish found Hatate and his people, killed most of them, enslaved the others, and condemned their leader to be burned alive. Reportedly, as they were trying him to the stake. Mm-hmm. A Franciscan friar urged him to take Jesus to his heart so that his soul might go to heaven rather than descend into hell. Hate replied that if heaven was where the Christians went, he would rather go to hell.
You see that if this is what Christianity is, send me to hell, bro. That's what the brother was saying, and that's the type of leaders that the Northern Kingdom had out there. You think about the one that's depicted on our camp sign. What's his name? Montezuma, right? They wasn't going out like that, man. But jump down to the thick highlighted part at the bottom. No, wait, no. It was a general.
It was a general. Rule among Spaniards to be cruel, not just cruel, but extraordinarily cruel, so that harsh and bitter treatment would prevent Indians from daring to think of themselves as human being or having a minute to think at all.
Whoo! Get that in Deuteronomy 28 and verse 48. Read it. Deuteronomy 28 and verse 48. Because if y'all don't think this falls under the curses, read that.
Deuteronomy chapter 28.
Verse 49.
Verse 49. The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth.
Didn't they come from far, from the end of the earth?
As swift as the eagle flieth. A nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand.
They didn't speak Spanish. Go ahead.
A nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of old, nor show favor to the young.
You see that? It say he's not going to regard the person of old and not showing favor to the young, coming in here cruel. And what the book is telling you is that why they had that mentality, because they wanted them to feel less human. They wanted them to only believe we the human, we the gods of the earth, we Jesus Christ, we the Christians, and y'all not, right? That's the point of that. They wanted to dehumanize them in a sense. Go ahead, pull the book back up. Keep reading. Read the last stanza at the bottom, the highlighted part.
At least one chief, the man considered by Columbus to be Hispaniolas, ranking native leader, was not burned or hanged. However, he was captured, put in chains, and sent off by ship for public display and imprisonment in Spain. Like most of the Indians who had been forced to make that voyage, though he never made it to Seville.
So, like most of the Indians who was forced to make that voyage, you see that? So, it was a lot of Native Americans that was natives and Mayans and Guatemalans, just a whole list of them that was taken as slaves and taken and back to Spain or to other parts of the world, to the Philippines or wherever they had conquering rule for them to work. Especially they took them to Cuba even. Matter of fact, drop this, get page 82 and 83 out of the same book. I'm going to show y'all something. Page 82 and 83. Y'all going to stop thinking y'all they was never on slave ships after today. Watch this. Read that.
Verse 83.
Read the top by 1542.
1540.
Verse 80, page 82 on the right side.
Yes, sir. By 1542, Nicaragua alone had seen the export.
The export, right? Go ahead.
Of as many as half a million of its people for slave labor, and effect a death sentence in distant areas whose population had been destroyed.
You see that? An export of millions. This wasn't just no one or two people that just so happened to go on a slave ship. And don't think these slave ships ain't documented and been found. Matter of fact, give me the article from CNN about the slave ship. It's a CNN article that I sent you about slave ships being found over there in South America.
It's already up on the Google.
Watch this right here. This is going to blow your mind back. Look, Mexican archaeologists identify the first Mayan slave ship that have ever been discovered, right? Believe me, they know. We the ones that don't know. Go down a little bit. Go down a little bit. Let's read a little bit out of this. It says, archaeologists in Mexico have confirmed that the shipwreck discovered off the coast of the Yucatan Peninsula once carried captured Mayans who were sold into slavery. You see that? Captured Mayans sold into slavery off what? Slave ship. So when we out there, we read it, and we talking about Deuteronomy 28 and 68, only talking about Negroes. No, sir. That's talking about the northern kingdom as well. Your so-called Hispanics, your so-called Native Americans, right? They was taking on slave ships too, right? Matter of fact, get the video. It was a video as well on the about the Mayan slave ships that was found. Play that video real quick.
It's already on the on Google Chrome. It's the last YouTube video.
Try to make this easy for y'all.
Mysterious Mexican wreck was an illegal slave ship. It brought Mayan captives to do brutal work in sugarcane fields in Cuba. A sunken ship discovered near Sisal, Mexico, holds the secrets of a 19th century tragedy. 3 years after the ship's discovery, archaeologists have confirmed its identity as an illegal slave vessel. The steamer was carrying Mayan captives to work as slaves in the brutal sugarcane fields of Cuba in 1861, months after the forced removal of the Maya from Mexico had been made illegal. The ship caught fire and sank, killing dozens of passengers and crew, and an unknown number of enslaved Maya. According to the National Institute of Anthropology and History, INA, the sunken steamer La Union was first discovered 2 nautical miles (3.7 kilometers) from the Yucatecan port of Sisal in 2017. At first, the identity of the wreck was a mystery. Archaeologists dubbed it Adalio, after the grandfather of the fisherman Juan Diego Esquivel, who introduced the archaeologists to the site. Shipwreck detectives. It took 3 years to map, analyze and identify the wreck. Archaeologists recognized that the ship's boilers and paddle wheels were a type of technology that dated to ships built between 1837 and 1860. They also found pieces of glass bottles, ceramics and brass cutlery amid the wreckage. The next step was a historical detective mission. The researchers searched the archives of Yucatan, Baja California sur Cuba, Spain and Mexico to find a ship that would have been in that area and match the description of the wreck. La Union proved to be a match. The steamer was owned by a Spanish company called Zangrones Hermanos y Compañía, which began trading between Havana, Cuba, and several ports in Mexico in 1854. Officially, the ship carried paying passengers and merchandise such as tanned hides. But the ship also had a darker purpose. In October 1860, La Union was caught in Campeche, Mexico, carrying 29 Maya, the native people of Central America who were conquered by the Spanish in the 1600s. Following the conquest, the Maya and other indigenous people were often enslaved on plantations, especially those specializing in sugarcane and coffee. The 29 Maya found in 1860 included children as young as 7. The loss of La Union. Slavery was abolished in Mexico in 1829. In May 1861, Mexican President Benito Juárez banned the forcible removal of indigenous people for sale in other nations. But as the story of La Union shows, the slave trade continued.
So there was a proclamation that they passed that banned the selling of Mexican people to other nations. Get that in Deuteronomy 28 and verse 64. Deuteronomy 28 and verse, because we read this and every time we call it Judah. Judah being sold across the world, right? But guess what? Northern Kingdom, it happened to y'all too. Believe that. Read that.
Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 64.
Uh-huh.
And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from the one end of the earth even unto the other.
So it was common practice that Northern Kingdom tribes were captured as slaves and being sold to other nations around the world. Facts. Go ahead. Hey, push play on that. We'll finish it off.
Each slave was sold to middlemen for 25 pesos, and they resold them in Havana for as much as 160 pesos for men and 120 pesos for women, archaeologist Helena Barba Meineke said in a statement. This human trafficking occurred against the backdrop of the Castle War, a clash between indigenous peoples and the upper classes of Spanish descent, who were levying heavy taxes and seizing farmland from the indigenous population. Captured Mayan combatants were sold into slavery, often in Cuba, according to INA. In other cases, slavers called enganchadors would travel to indigenous villages and promise citizens that in Cuba, they would be given their own land. Once the villagers reached Cuba, of course, they were instead enslaved. Historians estimate that La Union and another steamer called Mexico, both owned by the same company, smuggled 25 to 30 people to Cuba each month between 1855 and 1861.
Right.
On September 19, 1861,
This is
the
recent,
Union's
y'all. This ain't
boilers
like-
exploded,
like
setting the steamer
500
aflame.
years ago. It's only a
Half of
couple
the
hundred
80
years
crew
ago.
members and 60 paying passengers aboard died. No one knows how many Mayan captives lost their lives, as they were listed as cargo rather than passengers. The conflagration did draw attention to the illicit human trafficking that was occurring right under the Mexican government's nose, according to INA. After the loss of La Union, the government increased searches at Mexican ports to stop the transport of enslaved people. That's all for this news, and thank you for your time.
You want to
Donald Trump just announced.
Let me tap in, because again, all you brothers that think that Northern Kingdom, now look at that brother over there, he's light-skinned and he ain't no Israelite. But let me get De Las Casas, page 38, IT, page 38, because
what book is that? You got it over
It's
there?
in a NAP folder. In AP.
because it does here we're gonna have secular references where it was written that as the Mayans, the Aztecs, and the Incas, they were carried away in slave ships to different parts of the continent.
Right.
And here it's going to say that we went into slavery. So some of you brothers that don't want to believe the Bible, they rather believe in the white man. This is a white man's book.
You want to hear it? Here it go.
There you go. All right. Page 38. And this being frequently repeated in the space between the year 1523 and 1533. The kingdom lost all their inhabitants, for in 6 or 7 years' time there were constantly 5 or 6 ships made ready to be freighted with Indians that were sold in the regions of Panama and
Perusia.
So
So the Spaniards, what they had is that they grabbed Indians from this part. Let's say we're talking here about the kingdom of Nicaragua. What is Nicaragua right now is Zebulon, the Mayan. So they took Indians from there and shipped them to Cuba, like we read in the article. They shipped them to Cuba. They shipped them to Panama, a little bit further south. Read.
Indians that were sold in the regions of Panama and Perusa, where they all died. For it is by daily experience proved and known that the Indians, when transported out of their native country into another, soon die, because they are shortened in their allowance of food, and the task imposed on them no ways diminished. They being only bought for labor by this means, there have been taken out of this province 500,000 inhabitants and upward, who before were free men and made slaves. Furthermore, in the wars made on them and the horrid bondage, 50 or 60,000 more have perished. And to this day, very many thousand more have been destroyed.
So even in today, we're in this oppression. Even in today, we're in the same oppression. Why? Because we come from our countries, our people over there coming in, and they're trying to come into the United States, and guess what? They perish in the journey. How many people in that migration, how many migrations have come from Honduras, from Guatemala, from El Salvador, and die just to get here? It's the same thing. It's the same thing that happened then when they were transporting us to different parts of the different countries of the continent. The same thing is happening right now. People are risking their lives and they die in the treacherous migration just to come here. So it's no different. That's why the scripture says, and it's going to be unto your seed forever. It's going to keep on happening. Keep on happening over and over and over.
And watch this. Hey, watch this. Get that. Hey, it's an article that the white man wrote, because I know y'all got to hear from the white man. That get that. It's a Manchester historian article. Pull that up for me. Watch. I want to read an excerpt out of here to show you a little more insight on that history that happened to them. Because a lot of people will say, well, the Chinese man happened to him, and the Arab man, and they was doing this all over and everybody, right? Blow that up big. So we can read this real quick. This is the Manchester Historian article about the history of the South American slave trade, right? South American slave trade. We talking about Northern Kingdom, right? Read that from the top.
Histories of the transatlantic slave trade typically focus on those enslaved in the North American colonies and often overlook its southern counterpart.
Right.
However, those enslaved in North America during the colonial period were a minority. Only 6% of Africans were taken to the East Coast of North America between 1500 and 1870. Slave imports from Africa were
overwhelmingly taken. I'll read it. We're overwhelmingly taken to the South America and to the Caribbean, right? Although the southern United States is renowned for its past brutality toward the slave population, those enslaved in areas such as Brazil, Colombia, and Bolivia experienced much harsher reality. Go down. Yet not unlike North American slavery existed in South America, even before African enslaved importation transformed the region's landscape after Christopher Columbus discovered the Americas in 1492, much of the South America was divided between the Spanish and the Portuguese with the Treaty of Tordesillas in 1494, right? When the Europeans arrived in South America, they enslaved the native inhabitants and used them as free labor, forced to work in their mines and cotton and sugar and coffee tobacco plantations that were being developed. Moreover, shortly after the European colonization, natives of these regions rapidly decreased in numbers. What did they do? Rapidly decreased in numbers. And we read that in several books, even in the Holocaust. They rapidly, what's that precept? Deuteronomy 28 and 62? Get that in Deuteronomy 28.
Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse
62.
Verse 62. And ye shall be left few in number.
You see that? The scriptures say when this happened, you're going to be left very few in number. So when it comes to our Native American tribes, when they came, they were left very few in number. And the article the website, this is a Manchester Historian website, it's going to show us a little bit more detail as to why they were left so few in number. Go back and pull up the article. Pick up at that next paragraph. The Europeans.
The Europeans that came to America brought with them diseases that the natives were unaccustomed to, which has been described by some as the Columbian Exchange. Disease such as measles, influenza, mumps, typhus, and smallpox were detrimental to the Indian inhabitants of South America.
Get that. Deuteronomy 28 and 56. I think it's 56. 61.
Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 61. Also, every sickness and every plague, which is not written in the book of this law, them will the Lord bring upon thee until thou be destroyed.
Until we be destroyed. So the reason why they was being destroyed, because of the curses. And mind you, know what they was doing at this time? They were sacrificing, cutting out hearts, worshiping the sun. They were doing a plethora of abominable acts when it comes to the scriptures and what we were supposed to do in regard to our commandments, right? Go back to the article. Watch this. It ain't over.
Diseases such as measles, influenza, mumps, typhus, and smallpox were detrimental to the Indian inhabitants of South America. Such diseases had a profound effect on native mortality during this period. Yet historians are not quite sure of the exact figures of devastation it caused. However, it has been estimated that in the Americas as a whole, the native Indians were numbered at 50 million in 1500. By 1600, after 100 years of forced labor, colonization and disease,
they numbered a mere 8 million. You see that? 8 million from 50 million, y'all. That's 42 million dead. You see that? 42 million people died, bro. That's ridiculous. So if you don't think these people are but watch this. There's more. By 1650, some estimate that 90% of the native population had died. The colonization of South America was therefore devastating to the Indian inhabitants, and the loss has been described as one of the largest demographic disasters in human history. There is not a history in the earth that can compare to what happened to these people. Give me that in Daniel chapter 9 and verse 12. Give me that in Daniel chapter 9 and verse 12. Because one thing you're going to realize is that those so-called Native Americans, those so-called Mayans and Cubans and whatever, those are the Israelites.
That's right.
Read that, Daniel 9 and verse 12.
Daniel chapter 9, verse 12.
Uh-huh.
And he have confirmed his words, which he have spake against us, and against our judges that judged us, by bringing upon us a great evil.
Mm-hmm.
For under the whole heaven have not been done as have been done upon Jerusalem.
You're not going to find another, oh, but this people had a Holocaust. Oh, but this people went into slavery. Oh, but this people, and it happened over here. The Bible says you're not going to find a history on the earth that can compare to the tragedies that's happened to the children of Israel.
That's right.
You see that? You're not going to find it. You're not going to find it. What you got? Okay. Let's get that. What page is it on? Pull up the American Holocaust, page 68 and 69. That wasn't the one? Page 151? Okay, because I had some. It's something on there. It was just about the diseases and stuff, and the natives got killed. It was just tragic, man. It's hard. And then they got the nerve to say these ain't Israelites.
It's in my telegram.
So what they're really saying is that before the Spaniards came, we didn't know about these diseases. They brought them diseases.
Yep.
You know why? Because them bastards don't like to take a bath.
Exactly. Matter of fact, let's
That's
get
what
that.
it is.
Get to Holocaust page 68 and verse 69. Get to American Holocaust page 68 and 69. Watch this.
Page 68, the page on the left.
Zoom in a little bit. We can't see. Zoom in more. All right, scroll up to the top. You can't scroll up. You don't know how to scroll up? Ain't no way you can't. All right, we're gonna try to read it. It's a capital, his town of Isabella. No sooner were the ships unloaded. Brother, I can't read that, but can you read that, brother?
However, the sickness broke out among the crews. It quickly spread among the natives. Second paragraph. For years, historians have speculated as to what the epidemic was that laid low so many Spaniards and killed so many native people. Third paragraph. No, the most recent and original medically informed hypothesis and the one that goes the furthest in explaining reported symptoms, including high mortality and the extraordinary contagiousness, identifies influenza as the cause influenza carried by those Canary Islands.
Canary Island pigs. Y'all see that?
Pigs.
They said the influenza is carried by those Canary Island pigs, right? And so what happens is that they eat those unclean animals and they eat it it's natural to them, right? And bring those unclean foods and all those unsanitary practices over to America, over to what they call the Americas, where our people was at, and it was killing us off. We don't eat pig. We don't do what they do. They brought those unclean habits over here, and it was killing us off by the hundreds of thousands, by the millions. Actually, go ahead, read the next stanza.
For it now appears that it was swine flu that swept the world in 1918, killing off at least 20 million people.
You see that?
Before it finally dissipated. like other people in the Americas, and unlike the Spanish, the natives of Hispaniola had no previous exposure to the virus, nor to the numerous other diseases that historically in other parts of the world had spread from domesticated animal hosts.
That's why, give me Deuteronomy chapter 11 and verse 46. This is so important for us to learn today, man. We got to mix this in there, man. Our bodies are becoming I'm gonna just say it like we as a people are becoming too accustomed to a relaxed diet and just allowing us to eat anything, because a lot of these diseases, where it come from, what you eat. Understand that. Deuteronomy 11 and verse 46.
Deuteronomy chapter 11.
I mean Leviticus 11.
Excuse me. No, I'm in the right book. I said the wrong one.
Okay, my bad.
Leviticus 11 verse 46.
Uh-huh.
This is the law of the beast and of the fowl and of every living creature that moveth in the waters, and of every creature that creepeth upon the earth. Verse 47, to make a difference between the unclean and the clean, and between the beast that may be eaten and the beast that may not be eaten.
They had no idea of the dietary law. You see that? If we had an idea of the dietary law, we would have eliminated a half of those deaths at least. A lot of people would still die because these are some damn animals, the so-called white man is. But guess what? You got to imagine this thing, man. The Lord don't just make a law for no reason. You see that? There ain't nothing in this Bible that is just there just to be there. Everything has a cause and effect in his life. That's why the Lord say, it's cars moving fast in the street, so here go a law. Stay out the street. Use the sidewalk. You know what I'm saying? Walk in the streets, you're going to get hit by a car. And he got to write it down because we're going to keep walking in the street to get hit by the car. You see that? Get out the street. Keep the laws of God. That's what he's saying. That's the foundation of the whole message. Did you want to bring something out?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Give me American Holocaust, page 142 and 143. Because not only do they say that the Latinos are not the Israelites, but the North American Indians are not the Israelites either. Let's see. Let's see if it's true what they claim that the North American, that Gad is not. That Gad, what we call now Gad, the North American Indians, is the Israelites. Give me that page 142 in American Holocaust, 142 and 143. Because look where Gad is right now. It's way up in the mountains, in reservations, in what? In prisons. That's what I call it. Reservations. They are in prison. So even when the Spaniards came, like for example, my family came from the way up in the hills, talking about 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 elevation. Why was I born there? Because the Spaniards in that time, they drove all the Indians way up there. That's where my forefathers fled to where the Spaniards couldn't get a hold of us. And that's why we grew in that land where there's no, as to this day, there's no running water, there's no electricity, no highways go up there. So we got it, read it.
Governmentally unsanctioned enslavement of the Indians began as soon as California became an American possession,
right,
and continued for many years. It seemed an excellent idea in a land where free labor was in short supply and white wages were high. Moreover,
that's what we have now. The white make more money than us. We're the low class. Read.
Moreover, as whites who had lived in the southern United States repeatedly asserted, California's Indians who already had suffered a savage population's loss at the hands of the Spanish make as obedient and humble slaves as the Negroes in the South, wrote one former New Orleans cotton broker. In fact, they were even better than blacks, claimed a ranch owner in 1846, because they accepted flagellation with more humility than Negroes.
Meaning more, they endure more punishment, Read.
Indian docility was believed to be particularly assured when caught young, So a thriving business in hunting and capturing Indian children developed. Newspapers frequently reported sightings of men driving Indian children before them on backcountry roads to slave markets in Sacramento and San Francisco.
Here, read.
As with black slaves in the South, prices, next page.
Next page. Give me next page.
I'm
here in Sacramento. Here in Sacramento.
A lot of times we think slavery is so far removed, like it ain't got nothing to do with it, but it's ingrained in our history right here in Sacramento. That's heavy. We always think like, even if it's down south or so, you know what I mean? Oh, that was Africa, West. No, brother. Right here where
right
you
there.
at.
Right there. Blow it up.
We have a history of slavery. Right here where you at. Believe that.
Varied according to quality, said the Ukiah Herald, but they sometimes climbed as high as $200 each. Bargains could be had in some areas, however, as in Colusa County.
Where's that at? It's up here. Read.
In Colusa County in 1861, where Indian boys and girls aged 3 and 4 years were sold at $50 apiece, especially good little Indians, or as the Sacramento Daily Union described them, bright little specimens, might even fetch a straight trade for a horse. Given to the shortage of women in California during these early years of white settlement, a likely young girl might cost almost double that of a boy, because as the Marysville Appeal phrased it, girls serve the double duty of labor and of lust.
See, so is the North American is the North American Indians Israelites? We already proved it here.
Bring it out.
And give me Deuteronomy 28 and 32, because that's what's happening right now. They're over there chasing little boys and little girls to trade them and sell them as slaves. These white people are the same. They're from the same crap, the same dung. They're the same. The Spaniards did it to us during the what do you call it? 1492. Yeah. So with the Inquisition, but the British are no different. So give me that 28 and 32.
Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 32. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long, and there shall be no might in thine hand.
And that is what is happening till now.
Right.
As I mentioned,
now
we got Zebulon. We got Asher trying to come into the United States for a better life. And guess what? Their kids, their sons and their daughters are taken away from them. There's over, 20 or 30,000 kids here in the United States lost. And they can't get them back. They lost them. They don't know where they put them. So it's happening. So if it was happening then, it's happening till today.
Right.
We used to scream Black Power while heroin was pushed. But at the end of the day, nothing's in vain. IUIC has been given a vision. The tents of Judah has risen. Many has attempted the mission, minor murmuring, omitting, and missing the mark. Just reading that he had the flame of fire in his eyes gave us the spark. We on Paul's mission. We out on the road, purple and gold, from Mexico, Cuba, Haiti, Ghana, Sierra Leone. 144,000 boots banging, concrete crackling. These are our men repented at heart. The scriptures is proof. IUIC, we deliver the truth.